Pelvic floor pain can be debilitating, especially if you've experienced trauma. As a survivor of childhood sexual trauma, I understand how life-altering this pain can be. But I'm here to tell you there's hope and to share with you the simple breathing and stretching techniques that help me find relief and reclaim my power. Join me as we explore the mind-body connection and learn to alleviate pelvic pain through gentle movement and mindfulness. Let's take back control of our bodies and our lives together. Whether your pain is from sexual trauma like me or from stress or other trauma, breathing techniques are the best, least invasive place to start. The abdominal cavity with the diaphragm on the top and the pelvic floor below is really like a piston. So when we breathe in properly, the abdomen stays where it is. The diaphragm moves into that upper abdomen and the pelvic floor has a nice gentle stretch to it. When we do not breathe properly, those poor pelvic floor muscles don't get the chance to stretch and are then constantly activated, which can cause tightness and pain. When we experience stress and tension, we tend to breathe in through the upper chest and into the neck, which causes decreased movement in the diaphragm and tightens up those pelvic floor muscles. Not only that, but stress can certainly cause tension in our muscles. And a lot of times we often think about, right, we know we're stressed and tense up here, but you can actually hold stress and tension in those pelvic floor muscles as well. That chronic stress cycle also affects our nervous system, right, and our brains, so that we actually experience an increase in pain and even hyperarousal. Step one to properly activate the diaphragm is to get yourself in a comfy position. Now for me, that's lying down on my back with my knees bent up, but for you, that might be sitting or even standing. There is no one rule, one way that it has to be done. But when we're talking about diaphragm breathing, one thing that actually helps to get us breathing properly is, believe it or not, putting your tongue to the roof of your mouth helps relax all of your neck and mouth so that we're not tempted to use all of this upper stuff as we go. As you take a breath in, you want to concentrate on filling the abdomen up. So it looks a little bit like this. I'm going to take a breath in and a breath out. You want to be careful that you're not forcefully pushing the abdomen out. Kind of let it happen. So one way to help that a little bit is put your hands on the rib cage and think as you breathe in that you're also expanding into those ribs. So kind of like this. So you should feel a little bit of movement in the rib cage. The other way to help this one is to put one hand on the chest and one hand on the abdomen. And when you breathe in, this bottom hand should move and this top one not so much. So it's breathe in and then exhale, let everything recoil. And it may take a little bit of time to just practice this step. Once you feel comfortable with that, you can actually add on another little breathing piece to it. So when you breathe in, you want to count to 4, hold it for 4 if you can, and then exhale even longer. That longer exhale actually really helps to calm down the nervous system even more. So if you wanted to be off, ready to go, you would do the opposite and inhale longer than you exhale. But really, we are working on trying to calm that nervous system down. As a word of caution, please do be aware, and I have certainly experienced this myself, that remember there's the mind and the body connected here. As we're starting to work through some of this breathing, you may get a release. That might be angry, you might feel happy, you might feel sad. Just make sure that you feel safe and let those emotions go. Try not to hold on to them as you try to relax everything else too. Thank you to Better Health for sponsoring this video. If you do have some of those emotions come up, I really urge you to think about therapy. I don't think I would have been able to get through some of the things that I have had to deal with without doing that. So an option that I am really liking is called BetterHelp. It's the world's largest therapy service and it's 100% online, so you can feel comfortable in your own home, honestly, which sometimes is a really good thing. You can actually tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists. And even if it's not this issue, they can help you with a whole variety of different issues. To get started, you just need to answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text or chat or phone or even a video call. You can actually message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions whenever it's convenient for you. And one of the really cool things that I like is that if your therapist isn't the right fit for you, for any reason at all, you can switch to a new therapist with no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you can get the same professionalism and quality that you would get from an in-office therapist, but this time with a therapist who's custom picked for you, you have more scheduling flexibility, and it's actually at a more affordable price than in-person therapy. You guys can get 10% off of your first month at BetterHelp, that's HELP.com/Dr. Christy Ennis. And I've also linked that in the description below. Moving on to our stretches, we're going to do these lying right on our backs, so you can feel free to do these right in bed if that's more comfortable for you. Adjusting so that you do feel like you're in a comfortable spot. Knees are gonna start bent up, and you can follow right along with me. So we're gonna start by flattening our back a little bit, and then go ahead and arching it. So just getting a little bit of pelvic movement here, and you can go ahead and go into the motion that feels best for you, right? So if it doesn't feel okay to flatten your back all the way, that's okay. If it doesn't feel good to arch your back a lot, that's okay too. Go in the range that feels good for you, really paying attention to, of course, our breathing, which we talked about, and also where those pelvic floor muscles might feel better. Is it a little arched for you, or is it a little bit flatter? And as we go into our other stretches, try to be in the position that feels like things are the most relaxed for you. So I'm going to bring my feet a little bit wider, and I'm going to drop both knees off to one side. I'm actually going to take and press into this hip a little, and it's okay for that back to lift a little bit. Nice breathing again, right down into that abdomen and diaphragm. And we're really working on loosening up the hips and the back here, as well as that pelvis, because those muscles attach right where some of those pelvic floor muscles attach, so that when they're tight, the pelvic floor muscles tend to be a little bit tighter and a little bit crankier, and vice versa. So we're going to try to make that whole area feel really good. Now keep in mind also that you may have had an emotional release with some of the breathing exercise. That may happen with these stretches too. We're going to get one more on each side here. So I always recommend practicing these in a place where you've got a little bit of alone time. I know that's hard to come by. We're going to bring our legs right up. Hands are going to come underneath the thighs. I'm going to pull those knees towards my armpits a little bit. And again, really making sure you're letting go through here, and adding a little rock side to side, massaging that back, that sacrum, again, where some of those muscles are attaching and can get a little bit cranky. We want them to feel yummy, not cranky. So again, focusing in on the breathing. Sometimes I like to close my eyes to really focus on what I'm doing. If it doesn't feel good to rock side to side, that's okay. You don't have to. You can pause right in the middle. If it does feel okay, you're going to take those hands on the outside of those feet and just draw those knees a little bit deeper in towards the armpits. Again, if that doesn't feel good, stick with right underneath the thighs. This is a little bit more of a vulnerable position too, so it may not feel good for you to do that yet, and that's totally okay. Key thing here, right, is really listening to your body and tuning into it. From here, you'll take the soles of the feet, bring them together, and if you can, dropping those heels down a little bit. If that doesn't feel safe or good, you stay right up here, not a problem. And again, still staying with that rock a little bit. Breathing, relaxing, enjoying. And then from here, I'm going to bring those knees together, and I'm going to hold on to the shins, not directly on the knees. And now we're going to work on making little circles. So getting just a little bit more hip mobility, a little bit more motion through that spine and sacrum. You can breathe as you come, breathe in as you come to one side. And then exhale as you go to that other side, starting that cycle over again, and then switching directions. Obviously watching a little bit so that you don't fall over like I almost did, but a little humor is never a bad thing either. So here, and then we're going to get one more. Ooh. And then I'm going to bring my feet back down, kind of readjust that pelvic position a little bit to where it feels comfortable. And I'm going to bring the soles of the feet together, Knees dropped open. And here's where we are using gravity to just let things fall open. So if you need to, if it's hard to keep those knees relaxed and down, you can use some pillows or some yoga blocks to support underneath the thighs so that you don't feel like you're gripping and holding, right? The key here is relax. And as you're focusing on the breathing, focus on letting that breath come all the way down and out. You can even add a little self-massage into those inner thigh muscles. Sometimes that feels really good and helps us open up a little bit more. We'll get one more breath here. And then we're going to go right on to our hands and knees. So again, you can still stay right in your bed to do these. Shoulders stacked right over those wrists. We're getting into that yoga cat and cow. So take a nice breath in. As you lift that head, squeeze those shoulder blades and arch that spine. And then exhale. Tuck the tailbone, tuck the head, press those shoulder blades away. Feel free to go at your own pace here. You don't have to do the speed that I am. Again, whatever feels good to you, even if it's smaller movement or bigger movement. We're going to get one more like this. One more round. And then from here back to the center, we're going to get some nice big hip circles. You should be feeling a little looser now. So we're going to shift to one side, shift our hips back. It's okay to let those elbows bend off to the other side and even forward a little. So you feel free to make these as big or as small as you want. I start to get a little bit of snap, crackle, and pop as I move. And we're going to go off to the other side. Same idea. Feel free to even arch through the spine a little bit, play around with it a little bit. Let your body do what it wants to, as long as that means movement a little bit. One more. And yay. We're going to go right now into that child's pose. I'm going to go where my big toes are together, and I'm going to bring my knees apart. Feel free to keep your knees together if that's better for you. But we're going to press right down, let that head come down. Take one breath here. And then we're going to bring those hands over to the left side. I'm going to take my right hand on top of the left. If that's uncomfortable, just keep them apart. And really making sure I'm pressing down into that right hip. Try not to let that pop up too much. And then back to the center, and we're going off to that other side. And if these are feeling really good for you, you may want to check out my stretches to do at nighttime. Those can really help kind of ease you into sleep a little bit too. And then I'm going to come right back to the middle. And this time I'm going to bend my forearms, and I'm just going to let my head rest here for 2 more breaths. Let everything sink as best as you can. And now give yourselves a pat on the back for working on taking your power back.